Proper support is key. If it isn't there, the dream of a community home can be a nightmare. What happens if staff are consistently left unsupported to deal with volatile situations? We spoke to a care worker at a community house in Limerick. He says violence has become an increasing part of life in the home as some residents attack staff and themselves.
I was just getting to the stage where it was just so difficult to work there. I mean, last winter especially, things had gotten so bad. It was outburst after outburst after outburst. A lot of people getting injured. I've been assaulted myself a couple of times. It's a very unpleasant experience.
The home is run by Rehab Care, part of the Rehab group, and houses 4 young adults with intellectual disability and challenging behaviour. They need consistent psychological or psychiatric help, but are not getting it. Before going public, Justin complained repeatedly to Rehab Care management over the last 2 years about a lack of professional help for those in his care.
I had complained by letter. I had complained through my supervisions, continued to bring these things up as much as I could in the house. I was having no luck with any of that. I went and had a look at my own contract, which kind of sets out a very high standard of care. It says things like I'll be helping people to reach their full potential, helping people to lead a full life in the community, that I'll be working as part of a multidisciplinary team, those kind of things. Again, put in a complaint that that wasn't being met and got the same kind of response.
Justin wore a hidden camera in the Rehab Care home. It's controversial, but it's the best way to show what's happening inside. Justin filmed outbursts by 21-year-old Stephen O'Connor, including the following footage in which Stephen repeatedly punches his own head.
Stephen has a huge amount of potential, but I mean, when he goes through a bad patch, he's constantly, almost constantly on edge.
Can I give you some of this for your arms? Yeah.
He's wound up, he's tense, and from there it'll lead to these kind of outbursts that he'll start biting his arms to the point that they're bleeding quite badly, start punching himself in the head. He's a very big, strong guy, and he's punching himself full force, continuously in the head, and it can go on, at its worst, it could go on for maybe 2 or 3 hours a day.
We showed the footage to an expert in challenging behaviour.
The first question that I'd have is, why is that actually happening? That behaviour doesn't happen for no reason. It's happening for some specific reason. And if you can get to understanding the reason behind this behaviour, then you're in a position to be able to do something about it.
The HSE pays Rehab Care €800,000 annually to run the home and employ 12 care staff, including 2 nurses. But Rehab Care employs only 10 such staff. Rehab Care says the HSE should supply a psychiatrist, and the HSE says Rehab Care should supply a psychologist. In reality, neither is adequately provided, and Stephen is left stranded.
There is a behavioural therapist in the company, but we wouldn't have had any real input, nothing effective coming from that. There's a psychologist in the company. They came down at one stage to meet with the staff and talk about Stephen, and they said there was going to be a follow-up, that they were going to get involved in his case, and we heard nothing more. That was 2 years ago.
There's an absence of the behavioural support plan, there's an absence of a comprehensive behavioural assessment. The evidence is, the best practice is, you at least come along and design a behavioural support plan based upon a behavioural assessment. You have things in place. You have practices in place. You have taught people how to interact with people with autism and challenging behaviour.
Stephen also featured in a Primetime Investigates programme in 2004 when he was just 14 years old.
But nobody has come in and lived with us to show us how to deal with that. We need to be trained, and we need Stephen to have access to behavioural therapeutic interventions. But we don't know whether we're doing right or wrong.
I'm very bitter at the moment with politicians and everything. When he's 18, they're just going to catch him with a leash and bring him in like a dog. And that's their job for him then. He'll be away from society. No one will see him. And their problem has been solved.
Stephen did get access to more therapies in his later teens, But after he became an adult, that help largely evaporated, and his self-injury is deteriorating. We showed the footage to his parents.
He's just left there, lie there. That's wrong. I'm really disappointed over it, like, especially we weren't told. You saw the side of his face, the way it is. It's unbelievable. I don't know. The whole thing, I'm losing faith. I'm not blaming the staff. Staff are brilliant out there. I'm really vexed over it.
I feel let down. I feel very angry, and I want answers from them. Because more than anything, I thought that I was getting the full picture, and I now learn that my son has been self-injuring himself to an extent that I was not informed of.
Rehab care records show that Stephen had 4 outbursts of serious self-harm in the last 6 months of last year, but that spiralled to 11 in the first 3 months of this year. After an incident, frontline staff fill in a report which indicates the danger posed by a resident's behaviour. But in recent years, the risk ratings on these and on risk assessment forms have sometimes been later changed by management.
It was going from being the kind of level that would set off the alarm bells that someone is having serious problems down to the kind of level that we should be able to solve in-house.
We requested an interview with the Rehab Group's chief, Angela Kearns, or another executive. They initially agreed but then pulled out and sent a statement instead. Regarding the altered risk ratings, the statement said it's the duty of the service manager to identify and correct reporting errors. On its failure to hire nursing and care staff in line with its contract with the HSE, it said staffing levels are agreed with the HSE. And it also said it has met with the HSE to request more access for our clients to the HSE's psychiatric services and other therapies.
He needs a lot of occupational therapy, behavioural therapy, speech and language therapy, and that was our understanding. He would receive this. I want something positive to come out of this, not alone for my son, but for all young adults with autism and disabilities, so that there is some kind of transparency in the system.
Transparency is needed. Unlike nursing homes and prisons, there are no independent inspections of any homes for the intellectually disabled.
We still have no independent regulation or monitoring or standards for either adult or children's disability services, and that to us is a great concern, and it is a disgrace.
You will not get more vulnerable people in this country than persons with severe to profound intellectual disability. We need independent inspections, and it's not enough for the state to say that we just don't have the money to do it.
But the minister responsible says the money will be found.
It is simply putting, if you like, the funding and the additional resources in place in order that it can be done. I don't think that will take very long.
Has it been costed, do you know?
Yes, it has.
How much will it cost?
Approximately 6 million.
Okay, and the money is there for that, is it?
Not as we speak, but it can be found, I'm sure, because we need to do this. It's not something that we can put off any longer. We need to do it.
Until independent inspections happen, we won't really have much idea what's going on behind the walls of places like Grove House or the Limerick Home. Instead, we will have to rely on insiders for the real story.
This brave chap has stood up in a service and said, I can't take this anymore. But what happens when that type of chap is not there? What other things are going on in that service? It has actually opened up a can of worms and worry in my head as to what else is going on. What else do I not know?